Hello, kia ora, and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with artists from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Jakic. Alice Fennessy is an artist based in Palmerston North in the Manawatu. She uses drawing to convey themes such as intimacy, domestic life, and interior worlds. Her work is currently intertwined with motherhood as she raises her two young children, dreams and memories. Alice is endlessly fascinated by the juxtapositions or dualities thrown up by pregnancy and motherhood, how these experiences can be simultaneously beautiful and ugly, tender and excruciating. Her work aims to be sensitive and vulnerable, casting light on experiences of life often disregarded. I loved talking to Alice. We discuss her secondary art teaching career and how that feeds into her art practice, how her drawing practice developed, and how she uses drawing to process what's going on in her head and around her. She shares her love of cyanotypes and the colour blue, how she has introduced stitch and printmaking into her art practice, and why she likes to sometimes create her own supports or frames that become an important part of her work. Alice was a finalist in the Parkin Drawing Prize in 2023 and again is a finalist this year in 2024. We discuss the reasons why she likes to enter this art award and how scary but great it feels. Just another juxtaposition for Alice to be fascinated by. You are really going to enjoy this episode. And thank you so much to Alice for being a part of it. Good morning, Morena, Alice.
Kia ora.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Good. You've got a snuggly blanket on your lap, which is an indicator of how freezing it is in Palmerston North, I presume.
Yes, it is. It's very cold. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking to you. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am going to start asking people what they love about where they live. So Palmerston North is very regional, New Zealand small town regional. What is the name for Palmerston North in Te Reo?
Te Papaioia.
Cool.
Yeah, I grew up here. My mum's family farmed out around Palmerston North, so I kind of grew up here connected to them and moved away when I was 18 and thought I would never come back, as everyone does in Palmy. And then, studied in Wellington, lived in Melbourne for a while, and then kind of found myself back here once I had my children and wanted to be back again connected with my family. So what I love about it is I love being able to, be connected to my family and have my children grow up in a place where they have a sense of community around them, people that know them and care about them. There is a creative community here, but it's harder to find and harder perhaps to participate in than when you're in a larger centre. So it has its benefits and its, negatives. I love being able to have a garden and being able to spend time in nature and have a quiet life without the stress of commuting. And it's easy, it's affordable to live here. The reasons for living here are quite practical, I think. They're practical at the moment for me and my family. But in saying that, I have a community of people around me that I've known all my life, friends who have come back as well, who are doing cool, interesting things, and my family. And that's like the most important thing for me right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, that's the centre of your world, isn't it? Where you actually end up locating yourself almost isn't as important, especially when you're raising children. Just to have that sort of extended whānau.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm. And so your local big smoke is Whanganui?
Yeah, I spend lots of time over there. Yeah.
Yeah. So how far away is that? An hour
45
or so? Oh,
minutes. Yeah,
45. Yeah.
45. Yeah. Yeah. I go over there a lot. There are lots of, I mean, beautiful galleries over there, and yeah, that's yeah, I'm so glad that it's so close by.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
ideal, isn't it? It's perfect. And you
Yeah.
find more of your artist community there?
Yeah, maybe. I think so. Yeah, I've definitely exhibited more over there recently, which has been really nice.
Okay, well, let's just go back to when you were a little girl, Alice. I imagine that you are somebody, or you were somebody who would draw a lot as a child.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what sort of child you were and how you discovered your creativity?
Yeah, I loved drawing from a really early age. One of my earliest memories, my nana was an artist, not like a exhibiting artist, but she was an artist in that she was kind of creative in everything she would do, and made lots of beautiful crafts and painted and drew, not because there was any kind of external validation for it, but just because she loved it and it was expression. So I remember sitting and like watching her draw this vase of flowers when I must have been like maybe 4 years old or something, and just thinking, I want to be able to do that, and just drawing all the time and getting so much encouragement from her and from my family to do it. And yeah, I was quite quiet as a child. I loved animals, and drawing was just my favorite thing to do. And it's kind of, yeah, always that's remained, I think, that passion.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. And I
mm,
went to Freiburg High School here in Palmerston North, and I had a amazing art teacher who was quite young, and just really expanded my understandings of what art could be. Yeah, she introduced, like, I took art history with her as well, and she introduced me to kind of feminist art history and artists like Tracy Emin and Judy Chicago and Robin Kahukiwa, all of those amazing women artists. And that really resonated with me as well, and was a really formative kind of time in my life.
mm.
Um, and she just really encouraged me to consider art as a pursuit, as something that I could actually study and continue beyond school, which was really important. I think my background was really working class, and it wasn't like we didn't grow up knowing any working artists, or it was very much like, well, how are you going to turn this into a sustainable career? What can you do with it? I didn't really know the answers to those questions. So it was really great having a teacher like that actually, allowed me to imagine it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it, to have that kind of influence at that age?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mm, that's great.
Um, yeah. And so I went and studied a Bachelor of Fine Arts at College of Creative Arts at Massey in Wellington. Um, yeah. And I don't think I wasn't ready for art school at all. I didn't have the life experience to make work that was honest, I don't think, at that point. Um, but I learnt so much. And now I look back and I just think, like, what an incredible thing to have, 4 years of studio practice with people
Yes.
to critique your work. And, I wish I could have come to it in my later 20s, or even now, it would be so much more. I would have so much more to give, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say that. And it's just, yeah, it's almost like you're not quite ready. I mean, some people are when they're 18,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
just drawing on life experience is, I guess, a bit more limited at that age.
definitely. Yeah. I think from high school, I've loved work that's kind of artwork that's um, very personal, linked to the personal, and mining your interior world for subjects and themes and ideas is something that I've always kind of been drawn to do. And I think, yeah, at that age, I just didn't have anything. There was nothing, there wasn't enough
Mm.
here, or I
Yeah.
wasn't digging deep enough and challenging myself enough to access it, I don't think.
Yeah, but I guess it's
Yeah.
laid a good foundation for you, and through that and with time you have been able to go there with those
Yeah.
kind of stories.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had an amazing lecturer, Bryce Galloway, who is an artist and a zine making legend, and he continuously challenged me and questioned me, but with my art making, which it's only now, like years later, that the parts that, like that started to click together and make sense,
Mm.
feel that my art making started to feel real and honest. So I am very grateful for it now, but I do wish that I could go back and live it again, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And were you really focusing on drawing? I mean, I can see in your practice now that um, you use so many different materials and quite a few different techniques and that kind of thing. Is that something that sort of came out of that time at university? Um, and were you still focusing on drawing as you studied?
No, I thought I really wanted to be a painter. I really wanted to be a figurative painter when I was at uni. And I think that there was I had an idea that that would make me like a real artist, if I was an oil painter. And Massey at that time, there was a very a focus on the concept informing the medium and not being so tied to these technical craft kind of aspects of making art, that the concept and the thinking should come first. And I I didn't really challenge myself to go outside of that idea, that barrier that I'd created for myself, that I wanted to be a painter. So yeah, it was only really actually since I've been a secondary school art teacher and had to learn and had to understand all of these different processes that I've actually started to explore it myself, I think. Um, yeah, or feel
Mm.
able to. I think it's
Yeah,
just,
that's
yeah.
great. It's
And
nice
yeah,
to be informed by your profession in that way.
yeah, it is.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's great.
Hmm.
So you came out of university and did you study to be a secondary teacher straight away?
No, not straight away. I wanted to be a gallery educator. I'd been working at City Gallery in Wellington just as a host for a while and wanted to become a gallery educator. I'd been working at a community centre in Island Bay as well, teaching children's art classes, and just loved this idea of sharing how how amazing art could be, with especially with younger people, because it had been so amazing for me. And so I moved to Melbourne and was just kind of working and thinking about how I could kind of crack into this gallery educator profession, and knew I would have to study teaching to get into it. So studied teaching over there maybe a couple of years after I finished art school. And then taught there for a year, and then went into gallery education in Melbourne. So worked at the NGV as a gallery educator there for a while, and actually kind of moved away from secondary teaching, but yeah, eventually came back to it.
Mm.
But yeah, I just loved I think, yeah, there was something that felt so rewarding about sharing my passion for art and art history with other people. It felt really rewarding to see, because I know how um, exclusionary the art world can be. It can feel very hard to access, and you can feel like you don't belong in a gallery space, especially if you haven't had like an arts education. So, um, being able to open that world up for other people just felt so rewarding, seeing that kind of that light bulb moment where someone understands, finally is able to access or understand an abstract or a conceptual or, a challenging artwork that they didn't think they had the understandings to unlock. That was, really powerful for me.
Mm.
And not just in my career, but in my art practice as well. It challenged me as an art maker, I think.
Yeah, I bet. I was a gallery art educator as well at Auckland Art Gallery for
Oh,
4 years.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, after coming from primary school teaching. So we have similar
Oh,
backgrounds.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love that too. I was in charge of the studio art making programs, but also
Yeah.
worked in the gallery using artworks as, to
Yeah.
inform what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I just found it the most incredible environment to work in. I mean, especially coming from a primary school, you know, the staff meetings at the Auckland Art Gallery were just like mind blowing. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm in heaven.
Yeah.
Like I loved being in that environment. And it was
Yeah.
quite different too, I found, being part of this sort of small education department of that
Yeah.
wider Auckland Art Gallery. Instead of being education being the main focus, it was quite a different feeling to be just a very, very small part and even not maybe as important as the rest of it. Was
Yeah,
quite
definitely.
interesting. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it was a beautiful way to work with children, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It really made me understand that everyone, we bring our own lived experiences to artworks. And when we talk about artworks, we can access all different interpretations based on those lived experiences. And hearing the sophisticated um, interpretations of artworks that children could come up with was, just so magic. Yeah,
Yeah,
loved that.
yeah.
Mm.
Such a joy. There was some quite
Yeah,
quite funny moments with the way children responded to art. I
yeah,
do remember, but yeah, it was a beautiful thing. And yeah, as you say, making the gallery feel more accessible for children
yeah,
was a great thing to be part of.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
You were working alongside your gallery job with your own practice at that stage?
Yes, yeah. When I was in Melbourne, I I think I first started drawing because I didn't have space to set up paints. Oil painting requires a specialized space and ventilation and all of those kinds of things. And I just started drawing because of the immediacy of it. It was portable, it was accessible, it was cheap. And I think that time was when I really started exploring drawing, not just as a preparatory means of creating something like a sketch or a composition that would then become a painting, exploring drawing as its own medium that could be final, it could be resolved as well, as well as being a work in progress. That time was when I really started kind of exploring that part of my practice,
Mm,
I think. And there are
mm,
lots of things that I love about drawing. I love that you can erase into it. I love that you can layer other images into it. It reminds me of like the way that memories and happen in our minds, or thoughts, associations, because these things can memories and thoughts can kind of become faded over time. They can become uncertain, fragile, sensitive, and drawing can be all of these things too. So it made sense for what I was interested in drawing about at that time, which was very much about memory and my lived experiences. Yeah, drawing made sense, I think. Yeah.
mm. That's
Mm.
interesting, isn't it, that you found that part of your practice as a sort of almost a convenience thing to start with, a way to
Yeah.
be creative that you could kind of manage around your world at that time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I started going to life drawing classes while I was in Melbourne as well, and loved that. I loved how meditative it felt to be just with a time limit, drawing a body in space felt so um, therapeutic in a way. Uh,
Mm.
and really developed my skills as well, I think. Yeah, really developed my understandings of anatomy and proportion and, yeah, form, all those things.
Mm.
Yeah, I started drawing there and exhibiting a little bit as well. I just found that it was so easy to find creative peers doing the same thing. It felt so easy compared to when I had been living previously in Wellington, and it felt so closed off and difficult to access. Art,
That's interesting.
yeah, I mean, art's just everywhere in Melbourne, and
Yeah, it's a really artistic city, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. So that was
Mm.
a really kind of creative period in my life. Um, yeah, but of course, it was always I was working full time as well, as an educator, and then managing drawing alongside. So yeah, it was some real kind of balance happening there.
Mm. And
Mm.
how long did you stay in that role, and then where did you go from there?
I stayed working there for maybe 3 years and then came back to Wellington and was working. When I was pregnant, I came back to Wellington and we thought that we'd live there because it would be, similar to Melbourne. We'd lived there before, but we soon found out that living there with a baby was very different than living there as single people. Um, and my partner and I, and yeah, I was working there for a little bit, but it was just so hard. I, so we moved back to be closer to family. But it was when I was in Wellington and I was pregnant that I really, I was just fascinated by the shifts that were kind of happening in my own body and in my own identity. Um, Pregnancy is so many things. It's beautiful, but it's also revolting, and it's ordinary, but it's also feels completely alien. And it's serene and natural, but it's also really scary. And so I just found these things fascinating. And when I came back to Wellington and I was working part-time, I at Te Papa at that time in a gallery education role, and I just had time to draw, and I just started kind of drawing my body and those shifts that were happening. And again, drawing was immediate and convenient and cheap. Um, so yeah, that was a really kind of prolific time for me, I think.
Do you think that you were also using drawing to help you process what was going on in your head?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Um, it's just, I mean, drawing is a way of working things out. And yeah, that's exactly what it is for me all the time. Um, I love that aspect of the process of making a drawing where it's, yeah, you're working things out. Is this composition going to work? Does it make sense? Does it make sense with what's happening for me? Is it true to my experience? Like those. So yeah, um, it was just a really important time for my creative practice, that kind of pregnancy
Mm,
period. And then, yeah,
yeah,
birth and early motherhood were just such an absolute trip that I just kept drawing it, I think. Yeah, as
yeah.
much as I can. It still continues to be. Yeah.
And it's kind of it's therapy, but it's also an escape and
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
giving yourself a moment to just kind of have some time to yourself and all those things that young mothers need desperately.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It felt like I couldn't believe that nobody had told me it was going to be like this. I felt like we see representations of motherhood all the time, yet it's so much harder than that.
I know,
It's
it really
so
is.
much more demanding, and
Yeah.
yeah, it continues to fascinate me. The In one part, and it's you're just a mammal. You're reduced to just being this. Not reduced, I don't know. Yeah, it's you're a mammal. Like, you are just keeping this tiny little human alive, and it's crazy and such a eye-opening experience. My drawing practice has definitely kept me sane, I think. And yeah, even though, like, I now I love to explore other mediums as well. But drawing is at the heart of everything, I think. And
Yeah,
the
yeah,
beginning of everything is drawing.
yeah.
Um,
I can see
so
that.
yeah, so I keep sketchbooks pretty much within arm's reach all the time. And I'm constantly drawing and sketching. And it has been an escape. It's been so important to me. Yeah, I have kind of, I remember reading a book about Joanna Margaret Paul, and I was really inspired by the fact that she had a studio in Wanganui, but she found it more real and more fulfilling to draw and to make art at her dining table, like the center of her home. And I found that quite liberating because for a while I thought, I need to get a studio. I need to get out of this house. Like I need to break out of this, and that will make me, more of an artist if I have that space. And then I realized that my work is at the moment completely connected to my work as a mother. So it makes sense for me to draw and within the heart of my home and not try to fight against it, to try and
Mm.
how integrate caregiving with art making as much as I can. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It makes absolute sense. Yeah, and there's no rules, is there? And as you say, having a studio doesn't make you more of an artist.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just what works at the time. Yeah, I've got my studio for art making supposedly, but I don't know. I've just been doing a lot of art making upstairs in the house for some reason.
Yeah.
And then I kind of think I need to come down here, but I guess it's just being near my partner and, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Being part of it, being
yeah,
connected.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's also nice. I do love having a studio where I can kind of leave a mess and,
Yeah. I have to say, I do often move to the shed so that I do have just a bit of space to leave materials out where they're not going to get
yeah,
played
trashed.
with. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's start talking more detail about your actual practice.
Yeah.
So just looking into your work, you use graphite and charcoal as mediums, but also color pencil and watercolor and acrylic and thread sometimes. And you've done cyanotypes and monoprints,
Yeah.
and you use dyes from flowers and
Yeah.
vegetables sometimes.
Yeah.
So, could you just describe to us, to people who haven't seen your work, what your practice is?
I make work that is drawing based or has drawing at the heart of it. And it's often starts with something I notice or observe or feel, a fleeting kind of moment there where I notice something interesting about it or observe something interesting about it. At the moment, those moments come from my everyday life. So at the moment, they're very linked to my work as a parent. I construct a composition through drawing. Sometimes I'll take photographs first and work between my sketchbook and photographs to construct something preparatory. And then I think about how I can communicate that feeling, what surface will help to communicate that. I'm really interested in the dualities involved in the dualities of life, I think, how things can be both beautiful and ugly or hard and soft. And this dictates often how I select a surface or a medium. Um, Often I'm just curious about trying different mediums and seeing what will happen. Like with the flowers, my my son was really interested in making potions at that time, and we were growing plants and spending lots of time in the garden and making potions. And that led to thinking about, oh, I wonder what kind of organic pigments I could create. And then, oh, this is interesting. This looks really nice. I want to explore this. Would this hold on silk? Silk is soft and translucent and fragile, kind of like memory. That would be interesting to explore. Or conversely, aluminium is hard edged and jagged. What happens if I impose it with some really soft and fragile imagery? What feeling does that evoke? So I kind of work that out, and it's very play based, and yeah, I just kind of play around and make it work. And
Quite experimental.
yeah, and I love the process of taking a preparatory sketch and working it out. How is it going to fit? Where is the viewer's eye going to go first? Some of those kind of I studied illustration within the School of Design at Massey. I did a postgrad in that, which was really fun. And I think a lot of that kind of those fundamental parts of, you know, creating a grid and enlarging the size of a drawing or working out proportion and form and lighting. I think I really loved that. I loved how it kind of, I love that process. So I that comes into my practice a lot as well. And yeah, then I think my work is kind of based in, I work in the style that feels most intuitive to me, which is often representing with some degree of realism, but not being overly invested in it. It's to the point where it takes away from the emotion that I want the work to have, I feel. So yeah, that's how I would describe my practice, I think.
And you are drawing with it's like a sort of gentle application of line, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I'm always trying to achieve that. I'm always trying to achieve that.
You do seem to have a very distinctive style, which with that gentleness has a really beautiful softness and sort of it really draws you in, and I feel quite drawn to what you're making, which could in part be the ideas that you're actually drawing about and the narratives and the way that you kind of bring your own stories and memories and experiences to your work. And especially me being a mother as well, it does make you connect, or it makes me connect to how it was for me as a young mother as well, which is really powerful and beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. I love being able to have others resonate with my experiences. I remember like something that a lecturer said to me at uni that I always think about. And I think it actually comes from like a James Joyce quote, but I'm not smart enough to read James Joyce. But it's like in the particular is contained the universal. And it's like in those, you know, we think that our lives are, if we make, the way that I kind of respond to that is that I feel that in the specific details of my life, if I record those, everyone's life is specific in its detail. And if I'm honest to my specific detail, perhaps it will resonate with others and their experiences, which are also specific to them. But in that is that commonality. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges at art school was I wasn't honest with myself because I was worried about making work that was too personal, you know, too diaristic. And now I try to make work that is very diaristic and is very honest because of that ability to connect with others and their specific, honest, personal lives, you know?
Yeah. And with those kind of themes of motherhood, do you find that it's mostly women connecting or men able to as well?
I think it is probably mostly women or people that work that are primary caregivers, people that do care for others. Yeah. Yeah. I think
Which
definitely.
could be men.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah,
queer
I can see
people,
that.
it could be non-binary people, but I think I've tried to be, I mean, my embodied experiences in this body as a cis woman, and I hope that others can resonate with it.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. Oh, that's so interesting. And you say in your Instagram page that you love to draw hands and ears, and I've just lost your Instagram.
Yeah.
What was it? You love to draw hands, ears, and
Plants, bodies. Yeah, pretty much. I do. I love those organic shapes. I love those little, I think, yeah, ears are fascinating. It's so unique to the individual. And there's also this beautiful challenge of painting or drawing, depicting these like organic shapes that have lots of light, you know, light and dark. And Yeah, I just really
Mm.
like them. And hands as well. I mean, obviously, yeah, so expressive and always there. I can always draw my hand. It's always accessible. So
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
another guest, I can't remember, ages ago said that about drawing hands. It's like it's always there, so you can always
yeah,
whip out a pencil and draw your hand.
exactly. Yeah.
And when you incorporate all of these different mediums, how do you decide what you're going to do or what a drawing needs, or do you have it in your mind before you start?
I have a feeling of what I want it to to have. I think it's kind of an intuitive kind of feeling. Like um, when I was working with the silk on the silk, yeah, I lost a really close friend had passed away, and I had other people around me going through serious health challenges, and everything just felt so fragile. And all these memories felt like they were slipping away from me. And so it just felt completely the silk, the fragility of that medium felt so true to what I was feeling at that time. Um, but other times, yeah, I want to create something that has more hard edges and feels pointier and sharper. So I'll kind of go for the aluminium, or sometimes it's completely about the composition and the scene, and in which case paper makes perfect sense as well, because it's forgiving. I can erase it as many times as I want. I can, it's infinitely layerable and all those things. So yeah, it really depends on the feeling that I want the work to have. And sometimes I'm just really interested by a medium. Like I got really interested in cyanotype because of time. During that time, I was just working as a mother. While my son was really little, and I was just noticing the rhythms of the day so much more. And cyanotype is so time based. You put something out in the sun, and the image that you get is a result of the time you expose it and the weather conditions. And it just felt very true to my experience of those long days in which there were all these little routines and rhythms. And that became a whole body of work. But sometimes it's about I'm just curious about the medium and what it does. I want to
Mm,
understand it more.
yeah.
Other
And the
times,
cyanotypes are they are so beautiful. I love the idea that like you were saying, it's capturing a moment, isn't it? Or a moment in time,
yeah,
which may never happen in that way again, which is what I love about cyanotype. Can you just describe that part of the process of your process?
yeah. So with those, I created drawings over a long period of time, just in my sketchbook. Very kind of day to day drawings made in kind of little brief snatches when the baby was asleep, and then I became interested in the work of a a woman botanist who made cyanotypes in the 19th century, and she made these beautiful cyanotypes of seaweed. And she set up her little tent at the beach and would just capture these seaweed species that had never been captured before. And I think I just stumbled upon her work, like in a just like a book of women artists or something. And I just thought that's so beautiful and interesting. And so I knew I wanted to create something like that. So I took my drawings from my sketchbook and I just photocopied them onto translucencies and inverted them. And then they became these negatives. And I could layer them up, I could combine them with others. And um, I, yeah, would then just prepare the paper, put them out under different weather conditions and kind of see what happened. And yeah, they were really hard to control. And I kind of liked that because my days were also really hard to control. That it was so fun. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And what is the actual material that you are working with, which that sort of goes out into the sun? What is that called?
So you combine two chemicals and then you can treat the paper. So I bought chemicals off a guy in Upper Hutt on Trade Me who makes cyanotype chemicals, combined them, painted them onto my paper. I just used like a cotton rag paper so that I could wash it afterwards. But I also used fabric as well because the chemical will hold on different surfaces. So I experimented with that a bit. I really wanted to get them on glass, but I just couldn't find a emulsion that would hold onto the glass. So it
Mm.
was kind of fun, just that process though. And yeah, painted the chemical onto the paper, waited for that to dry, put the negative on the top under a piece of glass and just kind of left it in the garden and see watched what would happen.
Wow.
Then rinse them off. And yeah, it was just like, oh, that's what you get. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, that's really interesting. And
yeah,
is it, I mean, cyan is a color of blue.
yeah.
Is that, but do they always come out blue?
Yes, they do. And I was interested in the color blue. I just read Joan Didion's book, Blue Nights, which was kind of looking back at her experiences of being a mother. And I I loved that color blue and like there's also like Maggie Nelson's Bluets, her book that she wrote about all the different beautiful meanings and associations of the color blue. And so I loved that color as well. But yes, you can tone them. You can tone them with things like tea and different chemicals to achieve different colors. But that color, that deep blue, felt very true to what I was trying to explore. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Beautiful. And I think I did see some images of you adding thread to the
Yes.
cyanotype. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that work?
Oh, it was, yeah, I loved it. I made, I wanted to, yeah, explore some softer materials. And so I made a couple of wall hangings, by printing the cyanotypes onto, cotton and then embroidering into them, which was another way for me to connect with, um, that work of my grandmother making, embroideries and quilting, but also was this beautiful thing that I could do in the evenings once my baby was sleeping for however long. And yeah, I enjoyed that. Although yeah, it was very difficult as well. I wouldn't say,
Yeah.
yeah, a complete art in itself, but yeah, it's
And
fun.
it's lovely to be able to actually sit on the couch and work with something that is
Yeah,
dry and, doesn't
yeah,
require a lot of setup. That's what I love about stitching. And it also
definitely.
is very therapeutic, I find.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. Every time I do it, I think, oh, my mum would laugh because she was a beautiful sewer and knitter and tried to get me down that road, but I was
yeah,
not going there. And and
yeah,
my grandmother also did lots of embroidery and cross stitch and that kind of thing. And it's just nice. Yeah, it really connects me with my mum who died last year and my grandmother because they were crafts that they did. And it's just kind of ironic that it's not until now that I actually have picked up. It's
yeah,
almost like that some of the crafting that's done over the generations is in your DNA somewhere. And
yeah,
at some
definitely.
point in your life you discover it.
Yeah, yeah. And like I look at the objects that my grandmother's, made for me, and luckily I've still got one grandmother who's alive, and the objects, the things that she's made for my children that are crocheted and knitted and stitched with such love and intention. I wish I could bring that into my practice more.
Yeah. But yeah, it's quite a deeply personal thing, isn't it? Which
Yeah,
is lovely. You do sometimes do mono prints, and I've seen quite sort of painterly mono prints that are quite figurative.
yeah,
Um, is that part of what you like to do, and also even dry point etching? So a little bit of
yeah.
printmaking thrown in.
Oh, yeah. And I really had to learn printmaking the last kind of 3 years, 4 years. I've worked as a secondary school art teacher here in Palmerston North. So I'm always trying to build my practical studio skill level so that I can introduce my students to it. And what better way to test out different processes than by using it as a means to create my own work. I love the monoprint because I wanted to challenge myself to work in looser ways that weren't so precious about line or composition. And so, yeah, painting loosely on a plate and then taking a print from it was, yeah, really fun. And just, again, a sense of immediacy and not being, yeah, not being too precious over that end result. and dry point as well. Just a way of working with line that's was interesting and I hadn't tried before. So I guess it came from kind of curiosity there and
Mm.
a like, I wonder what will happen if I do this. And of course, a great way of also just being able to then take that back to my students and say, oh, look, this is what I did in my practice. And, maybe you could incorporate some of this in the subjects that you're incorporating and that you're working with as
Yeah,
well. So
I love that. And, what lucky children to have an art teacher who is really sort of experiencing what they are experiencing and seeing you being quite experimental and trying new things, it's such a great role model.
oh, I feel so privileged to do it. It's because and so privileged to be able to share my practice as an artist with them and to they're, I treat them, they're artists when they come into the classroom. They're artists and we're making art together. And I try and, it takes a lot of vulnerability to create artwork and a lot of bravery and courage. So I have to model that. So I have to be prepared to, if I want them to share their work and their ideas and themes with me, I have to be willing to do the same, to reciprocate.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
yeah, it's actually teaching is hard. It's very obviously extremely demanding, and but it's the most rewarding art space to work in. It feels like you're just seeing people find their ways of their means to express themselves and their experiences, and that's just so awesome.
Yeah, it's such a privilege. And
Yeah.
you're creating you could change the path of some of those children or young people, you know.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
just like you were influenced by your lecturers and teachers, you're
Absolutely.
passing that on. And so many guests on the podcast have mentioned how much one or two teachers has actually influenced them on their path. And sometimes it's not until later when they look back and realize the connection.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
definitely.
that is it's a beautiful thing, and they're, like I said, very lucky to have someone like you working with them.
I'll tell them that
Yes,
next.
and you'll have to play them the podcast, your
Yeah.
podcast episode.
Yeah.
Hi, kids.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
It's so
But-
good. It's brilliant. I've noticed that you do play with scale a little bit. So you have done some series that are like postcard size,
Yeah.
and then also sometimes you play with working really quite big. How
Yeah.
do you approach scale, and how do you decide how big something's going to be?
It's a really good question. Sometimes I want to create something that's really going to be really tiny on the wall that draws the viewer in. It's a way of kind of creating intimacy, I guess, between my artwork and the viewer that I imagine, engaging with the work. So scale, yeah, I like sometimes creating something tiny. I love the way it draws somebody in. Um, Sometimes there are practical convenience kind of based reasons for working at a smaller scale, like the size of my dining table. Sometimes a lot of my work kind of takes up it's quite small because that's the size that I have to work with. So that's kind of dictates the result of the work. But working big allows me to include more detail as well. It creates a different kinds of feeling, like you can create a more expansive, you know drifting, shifting kind of emotion by working bigger, and you direct a viewer around a larger surface and you can include different aspects. So and it's a challenge for me because I do probably feel more drawn to work small. I work in sketchbooks every day, so small is what feels most comfortable, but it's important to push through that comfort sometimes to create something that challenges your practice and becomes more expansive, I think. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I've noticed also that you approach framing in an interesting way, or the way that you display your work, and that seems like it's part of your practice and maybe part of your experimental way of working. I really love the carved wax stands that some work has been
Oh, thank
done on.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really different. Can you tell us about those?
Um, I liked that wax was uncertain, unfixed, can change shape. It's soft. It can be hard as well. I liked those the symbolism of that material. And I um just basically I found some lying around in a box and I thought this is interesting. It captured my interest, I guess, my curiosity. Um, and I think with framing, yeah, I do try to think about the frame as a part of the work and it to that supports the feeling I'm trying to communicate. So sometimes I have explored different approaches to framing or support that are an extension of the work. So I'd made some works that were like soldered a while ago, like with metal. I've made little tiny frames that have hand painted silk kind of mats beneath them where the work kind of floats within to create that connection between the framing or the support and the surface of the work as well. I really like the work of someone I went to art school with, Lauren Redican, who's been making beautiful frames at the moment. Sometimes there are regular shapes and organic shapes, and she just takes so much care in her work. So she's framed some of my drawings, which I've really loved and appreciated as well. Yeah, I always want the framing to support and act as part of the work rather than, just something to protect it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. It's really inspiring. And the wax was like a stand, wasn't it, that you'd shaped and then you just
Yeah.
placed the picture
It's the
onto.
aluminium. Yeah, I wanted the aluminium to kind of slice through it and kind of to have that juxtaposition of really hard and spiky with really soft and yeah,
Malleable.
translucent. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
I need to get back into that actually. I've still got some of the wax. I should get back into
Yeah,
exploring that.
I think it's such a good idea. And to see framing as part of your practice is quite unusual in a way. People often create something and then send it off to somebody.
Yeah.
But I'm working on these thread paintings at the moment, and I'm just trying to figure out they're in hoops. I'm making them in embroidery hoops, but I'm just trying to work out how do I want to frame these because I want something special, but I haven't sort of decided what. And my husband is a very handy guy, often does
Yeah.
work like that for me. But I'm also thinking maybe I'd like to try making something myself. And there's no
Yeah.
reason why you can't make a frame that's really, really out there and different
Yeah,
and is
definitely.
part of the work that you've produced.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. I love experimenting with different media and seeing what it does. And um, yeah, there are so many different options, I think, as well. And sometimes it comes from just a cost, like I need to save costs somehow and need to
Yeah,
explore. And
which
so,
is
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Okay. And also,
I,
sourcing recycled
yes, yeah,
frames or, recycled materials or objects that you can create and turn into something. And that's quite fun
definitely.
too. Yeah.
I found some old villa windows with the little like window latches on them a while ago. And so I made some frames inside those, which was I loved because I loved the way that the kind of the glass behind was frosted and so the light would kind of shine through the back and then having mounting the aluminium kind of drawing in the center. Yeah, there are so many different options to explore with framing, and
Yeah.
that's an ongoing interest I think of mine is yeah.
That's really inspiring. And you also, when you, I presume, do take some works to get framed by a framer, I've noticed too that you sometimes have two images within one frame, maybe
Yeah.
diagonally or
Yeah.
next to each other. What are you thinking there?
Um, I want to kind of, I think sometimes the way that memory works or the way that dreams work is that you have disparate images that are kind of that uh, kind of emerge at the same time. And it's interesting the way that you create these connections or juxtapositions between these kind of just disparate images. So sometimes I like to bring two images together within one frame, to challenge myself or the viewer to make connections between those images, and I don't know,
Mm.
seeing how evocative they are. Yeah.
I like that. And you have been recognised, your talent has been recognised by the Parkin Drawing Prize. Last year, you were a finalist with Self Portrait with the Dollhouse. And this year, you are also a finalist in the Parkin Drawing Prize
Yeah.
with Sunday Morning.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us about why you like to enter your work into this particular
Yeah. Oh,
award
and
and what you gain from it?
yeah, I think probably with most artists, it's a difficult relationship with art prizes like that. You never know how it's going to go. And I basically, I wanted to create something, to give myself a deadline to create something for. And because, yeah, it's not, I mean, living outside of more kind of active, maybe not active, but outside perhaps less vibrant art communities, those opportunities aren't always to exhibit your work, aren't always there. So I wanted to create a drawing. I loved many of the exhibitions in years previous, and so I thought I'll give it a go. And mostly I just wanted to give myself a deadline to work towards and create something intentionally. And I'd been drawing dolls' houses a lot at that time. Um, so yeah, that image at first, yeah, it kind of just all came together, and I was really proud of the drawing that I made last year. And then this year, because I was a finalist last year, I felt really stressed about doing it again. And so, but I wanted to challenge myself to do something different. So I worked at a much larger scale, with a much more complex composition. Um, and it's a great feeling to have some external recognition, especially when you're like me and you're mostly working at home and sharing your work, in a tiny little square on Instagram where no one gets to see it in real life. And um, so it felt really nice to be able to exhibit my work amongst others that I really respect and admire as well. So it's such a privilege to be involved with. I feel it's a great honor, I guess, to be able to exhibit my work amongst other drawing practitioners whose work I really respect. But it's
Yeah.
also really scary. It feels, it's scary, but yeah, great as well.
Yeah, it's so great. And it's so awesome that you've been a finalist 2 years in a row, maybe the winner next year.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe this year.
I absolutely adored Connor Podmore's drawing that won last year. I thought it was so beautiful, and yeah, just loved it.
You're in very good company. And the Sunday morning drawing I just love. It sort of does represent the sort of manic craziness of motherhood in a
Yeah.
beautiful way. You're I presume that's you lying on the ground with your legs
Yes.
on an armchair, looking
Yeah.
shattered and just almost slightly defeated.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I just noticed these mornings that would just stretch out, where it was just that they just felt like they would go on forever, and they were chaotic but somewhat beautiful. I knew I should be feeling grateful to have these moments, and I knew I should be appreciating them, but also I'm exhausted. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I've been up since 5:30. I want to go back to
Yeah.
bed. Yeah, so I wanted to create something that captured that. And yeah, that came out of a very real organic moment, and I got my partner to photograph it, and then created a compositional sketch and worked from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the way your two children are kind of looking at you like,
What are you
what's
doing?
going on, Mum?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then again, that's capturing a lovely moment in time as well, isn't it? Even down
Yeah.
to the things that are on your bookshelf and,
Yeah.
the toys and the mat and,
Yeah.
it is quite deeply personal, which is really beautiful. And it's just such an incredible drawing. I mean, you're so, so talented.
Oh, Thank you so much. That's really kind.
You really are. And let's just talk lastly about your galleries.
Yep,
So you are at Space Gallery, which is in Wanganui,
yep,
and
yep,
you also have online presence with Artful
yeah.
Gallery. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you find showing work online with Artful?
It's a great opportunity. I mean, again, it allows me to participate and exhibit in within an arts community while living regionally, So I so appreciate that. And it's a beautiful website. It's a beautiful platform. It's so well designed, and there's lots of artists represented there that I really respect. So yeah, that's been a great opportunity as well.
And working with the lovely Jessica.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's fantastic, and um, so totally accepts um that sometimes the limitations that I have, where it's like I am also working in these other fields, and she's very patient and accepting of that my work comes that she shows my work when it's available, and
Yeah.
is very flexible and patient with me. So I so appreciate that as well.
Yeah. And that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I do show my work at Space Gallery in Wanganui and also a gallery in Wanganui as well. So two spaces that are I have so much love for, run by amazing people, and who have just, yeah, really, just love them.
That's so good. And you have had a few joint shows and solo shows there over the last few years,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is an achievement. I mean, how do you actually manage your time?
Literally just working from putting my babies down at 8, whenever I get them to bed, and then working through until whenever I'm too tired and coming back inside, and yeah, and repeating. Yeah, that's the only way it happens. And with support from my partner, he's a musician, so he understands the need to have a creative practice. So we negotiate time on our shed. Sometimes it's the music recording rehearsal space. At other times it's my art studio. We negotiate time on the evenings and in the weekends for that. And that's how I do it. I would love
Mm.
to have more of I would love for my arts practice to become a more full-time part of my life. But I also find teaching so rewarding that it feeds in. I try and integrate my art making into everything that I do so that I can sustain these different aspects of my life.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very smart. So you're working full time at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, there are great benefits from that as well. Like I say, yeah, I work my practice into my classroom art teaching practice, and it happens somehow. The balance is there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And then something to look forward to at some point. You may be
Yeah.
able to,
Yes,
devote
yeah.
yourself to your
Oh,
art practice.
yeah.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to know if it would actually be influenced even in a slightly negative way if you weren't having these other things happening in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who knows? We'll
Mm.
see. I think we're on to the questions. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. That sounds good.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
What would you say to your younger artistic self?
Um, I think, as a teacher, I am so privileged to see young artists grow all the time. So I get to talk to these younger versions of myself all the time. And I always try to give them the encouragement that I would give to a younger me. So I tell them that, like, the experiences, the stories, the histories that they bring into class are important, and they shape the ways that they see the world, and give them the empathy and the language to make artwork that can resonate with others. So the advice that I give them is to be honest to themselves, just to be honest, and as that's the same advice that I would give to myself as well. Be honest with your experiences and don't try and be cool. Just do what feels intuitive, and that will resonate with others. Yeah.
Nice. Such lucky children, as I said earlier. And what would you say is the most challenging part of working as an artist?
For me, it's pushing through fear. And often it's the fear of wasting time. It's the fear of wasting time on an artwork that doesn't go anywhere, or a process that eats up too much time. And time is my most precious resource at the moment. So sometimes I have this fear of messing up a drawing, or the fear of something not working, or losing time to communicate the things I want to communicate. So trying to let go of that is so important. Having a sketchbook practice is really important for that. So I'm not constantly trying to make resolved work as the initial part of the process, like allowing it to go through those stages of being unformed and unresolved is really important. But that fear of losing time or not having the time to do that is a challenge. So sometimes just the working with the cheapest paper and the cheapest pencils and this, anything that I can be as least precious about as possible, setting time limits for myself to just draw or just make, is a really good way to push through that fear, I think. Yeah.
And which artists inspire you or inform your work in some way?
I'm really inspired by lots of Aotearoa artists that make work that feels compelling and sincere, or like expands my understandings of the world. So I love artists working at the moment like Hannah Ireland and Priscilla Rose Howe and Georgia Arnold. I love Star Gossage. But in terms of artists that came kind of before me, I think Joanna Margaret Paul is probably one of my greatest inspirations, because her work took place alongside and within her work as a mother. So it always feels sensitive and expansive in the ways that it kind of captures that poetry of everyday life. Yeah, she's probably my one of my main inspirations. I could go on forever though about the artists that inspire.
Yes. I must look her up. I'm not familiar with her work at all.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, good. That's my homework.
Yeah.
And lastly, why do you make the kind of work you make?
It feels intuitive. It feels important to me to make art that's true to my experiences of the world. And I always just think back to that quote that I mentioned before about, in the particular is contained the universal. So in recording your daily experiences of life, you are making something that will resonate with others and their specific details of their specific lives. So that's what drives me to make the work that I make. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm.
Well, Alice, I really don't want to finish our conversation. I have so enjoyed speaking with you. I've got the heater on, the cat at my feet, and I just wish we could talk all afternoon. Like I said, I often semi-fall in love with the guests that I speak to, just because, we connect on such a deep, beautiful level, talking about something we share a passion for. And so, I feel like I'd like you to be my new best friend.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please.
And if I'm ever in Palmerston North again, I have been there recently, I will definitely look you up,
Oh,
take you
please
out for
do.
coffee.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, yeah.
So thank you so much for talking so authentically about your practice. And, you really touched on some super interesting things which we haven't really talked about before. And I'm sure all the listeners would have found that really fascinating. So thank you very much. And thank you for your time being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mandy. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.